Hopefully that's all us here. I've just put the agenda in chat. Has everyone got chat? Can I do some thumbs up? Brilliant. Okay, we'll probably get going since it's a couple of minutes. Welcome to the session. Thanks so much for giving up your time. I feel like we've got a really good, exciting, broad mix of groups here tonight, so it's brilliant news for us. What we're going to do is spend the first up to half an hour presenting on the project. So hopefully you all know why you're here. It's for the e-bike hire scheme. This is going to be collaboratively run between the Bike Drop and Transition Stroud. So you'll hear from Maria Ardley, who, you want to give a wave, first, who came up with the idea in the first place. So she's going to give an introduction to the scheme and an overview of its aims. And then Adrian's going to introduce Transition. And then we've got the Bike Drops. We've got Harry and Pascal from the Bike Drop, who are going to introduce themselves, and we'll go through an overview of the scheme, what we hope to achieve, why we want to work with community partners, and kind of what we expect from community partners as well. And we'll have loads of time to discuss the ins and outs of how exactly these projects are going to work. So yeah, I might just share my screen now and get on with the presentation. So I can't remember who's first. Is it Maria?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, I'll just share my screen. We've got a little presentation, but it's not all going to be formal, I promise. I don't suppose would everyone like to just introduce themselves? So Maria, Harry, Pascal, Adrian, just say hi so everyone knows who we are. Brilliant. And we also have apologies from Access Bike. So they were meant to be here this evening because they have a sort of peripheral interest, but they couldn't be here this evening, but they are potentially involved later down the line as well, just so you know. I'm just going to get you onto our slides. Welcome. So hopefully this says it all. E-bike hire for our district, so not just for Stroud, but for the whole district. And I'll just let Maria take it away, if that's all right.
Yeah, thanks, Jess. Hi, everyone. Yeah, so this whole scheme came up. It sort of came about because there was just a group of us who were discussing how risky it can be to invest in a bike. I had a conversation with a friend of mine who had said that she would really like to try an e-bike because it's quite a significant investment to buy one up front. And she thought it would be a really good idea if you could just try one for a week or two before buying one. And I think Adrian had a very similar idea, and then we got the Bike Drop involved and Transition Stroud involved, and it's kind of come together, which is really exciting. Yeah, so that's the first reason for an e-bike scheme. It just takes the risk out of buying if you've had a chance to try a bike beforehand. And well, one thing I didn't put on this slide, but I should have done, is that obviously in Stroud District, with it being so hilly, it kind of needs to be e-bikes rather than just ordinary bikes. And obviously there's a significant cost involved in that. And also, I think all of us just love cycling. So getting as many people onto bikes as possible is, I think, a really important thing. Over maybe the medium to long term, we would like that to mean that we can start cutting the number of short car journeys around the district. So the kind of journeys that involve doing the school drop off, or going to the supermarket, or going to the gym, or maybe to the office, or whatever. If we can cut some of those journeys being made by car, that would be brilliant. And addressing road safety concerns as well. So when Transition Stroud sent out a survey they got quite a few responses from people saying they were worried about cycling on the roads locally. So we're hoping that we can combine this scheme with you know, supporting people with their confidence with cycling on the roads. Next slide, please, Jess. So our ambitions are really to pilot the scheme for a year, collect data on it. So potentially looking at the kinds of routes that people are typically using the bikes on. And eventually that would enable us to hopefully lobby more effectively for better bike infrastructure as well, because the council will know what the most travelled routes are from that data. Starting off with a few communities and then expanding it ideally to include as many community groups as possible, and also to expand the range of bikes. So if we're going to cut the shorter car journeys, then, you know, we might need different types of bikes to facilitate that. But if you have any other ideas for how we could expand the scheme, I think we'd be happy to hear them. Yeah, so now I'm going to hand over to Transition Stroud to give you a bit more detail.
Hi, thanks, Maria. And for those of you who don't know, Transition Stroud is one of the transition towns around the country. It's been going in Stroud for, Martin's on the call, he'll know better than I do, but about 13, 14 years in Stroud. And it's a movement of communities, both around the country, but also around the world, who come together to hopefully reimagine and rebuild our world into a different way of doing things. Transition Stroud locally hasn't been an organisation that has been doing a lot of its own projects, but what we do is we provide an umbrella operation to enable things like the repair cafes to operate. So we provide the back-end booking system for that, and also the insurance. When Maria and I got talking about this idea, we thought it was a great opportunity to use the transition umbrella to form a coalition to put in a bid to the district council. Because we've worked with the district council for a number of years, it's often easier for them to put money into an organisation like Transition, because we know they know that we're used to delivering. So that's why we're involved. I'm also a non-exec director with the Bike Drop, and when we're talking about bikes, Bike Drop, based in Brimscombe, part of the Grace Network Social Enterprise, seemed to be a great group of people to get involved with. So Maria and I took our idea to Pascal and Harry at the Bike Drop. Next slide, over to them.
Hi everyone, my name's Pascal. I work at the Bike Drop, doing all the things related to not fixing bikes. We have a couple of guys also on the call who do all the things related to fixing bikes. That's Harry, who'll probably give you a wave, and Tristan hiding down the bottom there. We have another mechanic who's not on this call, Kes, and we have two trainees as well. But yeah, we are predominantly, first and foremost, a bike workshop. We fix bikes because we think it's really important to bikes being used is for bikes to be able to be used. They need to be fixed, they need to be working, they need to be safe. So that's our first aim, but we are a community interest company. And for those of you who don't understand that concept, it means that rather than making profits and the directors of that company taking those profits home, the profits are reinvested into the community. So one of the other things that we have just opened up is an academy for training people. That's training bike mechanics, because the future of cycling will require more bike mechanics than we currently have. And I think the closure of several bike shops in town really tells you where the big commercial market is going, which is away, which is not helpful for those of us that want to see lots of bikes out there being used. So That's one of the things that we do. We also recycle bikes. So we will take in donated bikes. We treat them like a customer bike. We fix them. We put new parts on them. We safety check every part of them, and then we sell them to the local community at very reasonable prices. Again, saving bikes from landfill and also giving the community a supply of really very reasonably priced bikes, or we think we do. So that's what we do. We're down at Brimscombe Mills, as I think Adrian mentioned, which is where the long table is. That seems to be the one that everyone knows. So do come down and pay us a visit, and hopefully we can support this scheme by way of getting hold of some bikes and looking after them, because that's kind of fairly crucial, I think. So with that, I will hand over.
Yeah, I think that's me. Thanks, Pascal. So last introduction is me. I'm Jess. I think you probably mostly all know me, and if you don't know me, you've at least emailed me. I help transition Stroud to run quite a few projects now, which is exciting. But I was originally brought in, sorry, I'm just checking messages now. I was originally brought in to help run the Climate Action Network Forum, which is something that was set up in 2019 by Transition Stroud. And really is just a platform or a network for climate action groups that operate around Stroud District. So there's around 15 grassroots community groups, all working at a grassroots community level to take action on climate, and also the broader biodiversity crisis as well. So a lot of the groups that are on the forum have lots of interests. So like Transition Stroud, we all have very similar aims and objectives in terms of broadly looking at what can be practically done at a community level, at a very hyper-local level, really, to tackle this crisis that we're all facing. So the forum was also funded by Stroud District Council to help us come together, share our skills, network, and hopefully deliver projects together. And this can actually be a really fantastic example of shared projects, which I'm really excited about. You can see on the slide that I've got a little map of most of the places that we have in the district that we have community links with. I'm aware that maybe some people on the call are actually here and not represented on the map, so really sorry about that. It's about a year old, this map. But there, you can equally see that there's some areas that don't have little blue spots in, that we'd really like to build better community connections with. So if you do happen to be dialing in from an area that's in the circled in black, or doesn't have a little blue dot in, just check where you are, and if you're in those areas, we'd love to speak more deeply with you, because we desperately need to get action in every area of our district, not just the places that have had long established community groups working on climate action. So as a forum, what we do is we run events like this, as I'm sure most of you know. We have a newsletter, a Facebook, WhatsApp, and we share information, news, and also practical support, so we can help set up groups, help get access to funding, and just put people in touch with each other for both practical projects, but also to share information as well, and to help generate more interest in taking action on climate. Crucially, this is one of the things that we're running now. So on the left of my screen, you can see that we've got this event. The next one will be in January. That's where we're launching a green events platform for the area. So that's for all community groups or any broadly environmentally or resilience orientated organisation can promote their events. Also meetings, volunteer opportunities in the longer term as well. So we're running an introduction to that soon to be launched service. That will be launched in spring, and anyone on the forum can gain a preview of that and get a walkthrough on how to use it in January. We've got lots of stuff going on, which is really exciting. And if you think you might want to be part of the forum and you're not already, please do drop me a line after this event. I'll be sending around contact details along with all the event information. I'll scoot on a bit because I think we all probably here to discuss and ask questions. So before we get into the nitty-gritty of how exactly we want to deliver this project, just to emphasize that with our top line aims, are really to support Maria's main objectives, which are to get as many people accessing e-bikes as possible. And we think that the best way of doing this is to work with community partners so that we can spread access around the district. Instead, if it was just us and the bike drop running it, then it would just be in Stroud, and you'd have to get to Stroud, even if that meant crossing most of the district to get there to pick up an e-bike. And we don't want that. We think it's much more practical and useful for people to be able to access bikes closer to where they are. So that means working with you guys, which is really important. And of equal importance, I think it's a really practical, nice visual project that your group can run, that will hopefully galvanise more interest and get more volunteers and have more practical reduction in carbon terms on the environment and reduce pollution as well. So I think we're hoping that this project will be a way to galvanise more interest in what you guys do anyway. So for me, it's really exciting. I'll let Adrian get into the nitty-gritty of exactly what we're offering and what we hope to offer. The main thing that I'm going to note before I pass over is that we're only running 3 pilots for now, and that's because we didn't quite get enough money to run the what we had originally proposed, which was 5. We are actively fundraising at the moment, and as lots of you know, I've been in touch to say potentially we could ask for match funding from the community groups, from yourselves or your parish councils. But we're equally fundraising for bigger fundraising sources to try and expand the programme more widely, and that's our ambition in the long term. And we have a kind of just in programme that we're hoping to get funded, which is to run what we're calling a bike library, potentially in collaboration with Access Bike, and that would be from Central Stroud, but would be a parallel project to these pilots. And we don't have funding for it yet, so this is very much in the air at the moment, but this is where we're hoping to go. I'll let Adrian tell you exactly the details of what we're hoping to offer right now.
Thanks, Jess. So just to run down the offering, what we've done with this is put together an idea of how we think it could run. What I would say is that none of this is set in stone, and we're looking to hear your thoughts, your feedback, your questions for which we might not yet have answers, because we want to see this as very much community-led rather than us telling you what you should have. But the sort of general framework that we're looking is to offer up to 2 e-bikes per community. That comes with all the accessories, so lights, mud racks, panniers, helmets, locks and pump. It's a rental model. We will be able to make available to you the Transition Stroud booking system and payment system. We want it to be sustainable both for us and for you, for all sorts of reasons which never occurred to me when we started this. Issues around insurance are not quite as straightforward as you might think, because that comes with ownership. So all we can tell you at this time is that the bikes will be supplied fully insured. There will be a £250 excess, and there will be £5 million worth of personal liability, public liability cover. And because we want engaged, active partners, there will be potential for the community groups to keep some of the money from hire fees or donations if that's the route that you want to go down. And as Jess has already intimated, this is a great way, we think, of providing profile and focus for environmental issues in your area to get more people involved in your local CAN or community group, and get them out active and using the highways and byways of our beautiful district. Next slide, please. So what we're looking for in a pilot is we want the bikes out on the road being used. We've got a target of a minimum of 200 days, ideally 300 days, so 10 months of the year if possible. Because we think rather than being an early gift from Santa, rather than just plonking these on the community groups, we'd like to see some sort of commitment back. So we want to see some form of match funding, and we realise that that will vary from group to group, and it's something to show that they're not going to be just sat in a shed somewhere and not loved. We want communities that are actively going to get them out. We would really like to see a geographical spread. As Jess said, it's so much easier for us if they're in Stroud and Brimscombe, but that doesn't really help deliver against our mission. So we are looking wherever possible to get them as wide as possible. And collaboration. We don't have all the answers, and believe me, there are more things that I don't know about this than I ever thought I would need to know when I started. So, bear with us as we work through some of the questions. And I know one group's come through with at least 8 or 10 questions today, to which I don't have the answers to probably half of them. So yeah, this is a two-way partnership. We're looking at this, and we've got the money, or at least we've got half of the money that we asked for. So we are ready to go, and we will be looking to launch, said to somebody earlier, in the spring. And the spring can mean all sorts of things to all sorts of people, but it will be early next year. So that's me, I think, Jess.
Great stuff. Yeah, I think it's over to me to talk about a few of the bike options. If you could go, is that the first slide? Is that the third? Yeah, there we go. Yeah, so we wanted to, as Adrian explained really well there, we're in a collaborative process to find out what the community needs. So for this, the Bike Drops wanted to try and tackle some of the things that we think are wonderful about bikes. So we obviously are passionate about bikes and want as many out in the district as possible. And we completely understand that people use them for different things all the time. So we have 3 options that we've put together. The first one that we're looking at just now is an example of a bike, but it is a relatively easygoing, simple and reliable, low step, so no restrictions with people that have mobility issues. It's that all the bikes within this range would be standard of Bosch or Shimano motors, because they're the most reliable. They'd have the most warrantable parts as we go forwards. They're the ones that are going to last the longest. But this range of bikes is very much geared up to get as many bikes out as possible. So they're the lowest cost, reliable option. There's a certain amount of specs and safety standards that we'll try and hit with these to make sure that they are capable and not going to fall apart within a couple of months. But this range is very much to get as many people out. So start thinking in your minds now, rather than just me talking through 3 bikes. We're very much giving 3 options for each community to decide what they think would be best for them, what would be best for the people within their community. So this is number 1, and it's number of bikes, quantity of bikes out, getting 1 person on a bike. That kind of does that well. The panniers and things are set up so that you could carry shopping, not so good for carrying people. So we go on to the next slide. So this is quite a unique bike. It's quite a utilitarian bike. Straight away, you'll probably notice it's got much smaller wheels than the last bike and what would be known as normal bikes. If anyone knows of the turn bikes, which are quite popular around Stroud, it's the same size wheels. This one's a little bit different. It's a little bit geared up to be not quite a cargo bike, but not quite a normal bike. So it's a little bit more versatile. The price goes up a little bit, but you enable a lot more cargo carrying. So they'll be set up to take to do school runs with one person, one kid. They're quite versatile with racks on the front, so cargo carrying plus school pickup become an option. You might be able to do big shops, not as big as maybe the bike will come onto in a minute, but they're a little bit more versatile. They're designed to be quite strong, reliable, and a bit of a go anywhere, do anything bike. But the price jumps up a little bit. So that middle tier is just something that can do a little bit more. It can carry a little bit more. The wheels aren't set. So this bike has smaller wheels. Pros and cons, there are many. They can feel quite agile compared to some other e-bikes. There are other e-bikes that will sit in this category that will do the same sort of things, but will have more of a traditional styling to them. But anyway, so that's option number 2. Price goes up a little bit, but it'll be working out what your community wants. And then option number 3 would be something similar to this. It's a Benno Boost. If any of you again have seen the Turn GSDs around Stroud, they have become incredibly popular, but you might see them whizzing about. They can have 2 kids on the back or 2 smaller adults. You can have kid seats or the bench, which is illustrated in this picture, racks on the front, fully kitted, mud guards and everything. So this is a really utilitarian. You can do a school run with 2 people and get your shopping and things in a bag. You can fit boxes and cargo capacity on the back so that you can do a weekly family shop on a bike. It really kind of opens the door to what you previously thought was always going to be done in a car journey. So this is why Bike Drop particularly absolutely loves cargo bikes, and why we're an advocate for cargo bikes. We have been for years, is that they can really start changing journeys, those journeys for people that they'd think, oh, I need to do the school run or the weekly shop, I'll jump in the car and I'll pop up there. E-bikes have been wonderful for turning the world flat. So all of a sudden, the journeys where you had to pop up to Minch or up over that big hill, you start thinking, oh, I'll do that on an e-bike. Cargo e-bikes are that step further where you think, I need to cycle to the next town with my kids and a big bag of something. I can do that on this bike rather than typically jumping in the car. So they are a real game changer. They are obviously more expensive because of that, but they are much more capable. But those are the 3 options that we'd like to propose, and it's not setting these particular bikes or these particular specs in stone. These are examples to help give you guys a bit of a bit more info about each bike. But the 3 options would be: first is cheap and cheerful, reliable, but simple enough to just get as many people on bikes, so get as many bikes out. The middle one would be something a bit more utilitarian, maybe quite robust, carrying capacity, but not quite such a big jump as this big cargo bike, which is like all singing, all dancing, do as much as you can on a bike. So that's pretty much it for now. We'll come to questions in a second and get your feedback around which bikes are kind of looking attractive, because obviously with the limited funding we have, it does really change. Like you can almost get 2 of the level 1 options, the cheaper bikes, for 1 big Benno Boost. So it's kind of, it gives you something to think about. Anyway, I'll be quiet and pass on. Sorry, yeah, accessories is probably still me. All the bikes would come with accessories. So again, can tailor make the package for your community, but standard things, locks, lights, helmets, carrying capacity like panniers, all of it is available. And even the kid seats, the chill kid seats, which are the market leaders. So it's all safe, good quality stuff that will get you out and about. I think that is me now. Maybe that bit's me as well. Bike maintenance, it is a really key part. So the way to make these bikes as reliable as possible is just like cars and any bits of machinery, is to make sure they're well maintained. So that will be a part of the package. We do still need to work out a few complexities around insurance, because that may dictate the levels of maintenance and whether each community could be trained up to do minor repairs themselves, or if it needs to be held centrally. But we will work that out together. But it's just to say that maintenance would be covered. Just to very quickly add, the way that we would hope this project has maximum longevity would be however many bikes we get out into the community across year one. We would maintain them to keep their value as high as possible, so that when it comes to year two, we could sell those bikes, reinvest back into the next fleet, get more funding, and go again. So it's kind of a model that will keep perpetually growing and growing and growing. But that's another reason why the maintenance is so important, not only to maintain reliability and keep everyone as safe as possible, there are insurance implications, but also to have this as a growing, flowering model that just keeps on going. So I think that is me now.
So onto the numbers, and that's me. I think there's a lot to look at on this slide, and I'll just try and talk you through it with as much clarity as possible. I think it is worth saying, as everyone keeps saying throughout this, these numbers are not set in stone, and the way that we're talking about running this is not set in stone. So as Adrian mentioned before, you know, we need to look on a case-by-case basis at how people think this is going to work in their community. But the first thing, obviously, is the capital expenditure, the purchase of the bike itself. That's where we want to use the council funding for the bulk of that purchase, because we understand that most of your community groups probably don't have that sort of money to hand to be buying a bike. So the idea is that this pot of money is going to buy the initial bikes, and you don't need to worry about that bit, hopefully. Obviously, if you choose a more expensive bike, there might only be one per pilot. If you choose the cheaper bike, there might be two in a pilot. So that's sort of the key thing to think about there. And then the ongoing costs. Now, this is the thing that we're really keen to create a scheme that is sustainable and that will basically self-fund, because we don't want to just run this as a pilot and then at the end of the year go, oh, well, that was lovely, but we're going to have to keep finding more money every year just to keep the thing running. So what we would like to do is we would like the following costs, which are the running costs, we would aim to cover them with rental income. Now, that rental income could be the rental that's charged to the end user, or it could be some money that comes out of a community group's pot, if that's how they so choose. Now, within those running costs, we're looking at insurance, that's absolutely essential. The routine maintenance, that's pretty well absolutely essential, because we need these bikes to be safe and we need to make sure they're looked after. There's the depreciation in the value of the bike. Again, as we mentioned earlier, it's so that at the end of the year, we could sell these bikes, put the money that's been put into the pot from these ongoing costs and buy another new one, so that the scheme has longevity. And then this last number down here, community group admin costs. Now, again, because we were trying to look at this financially as a self-sustaining scheme, I put that number in at around about £900, which sort of equates to an hour of somebody's time at £15 an hour to administer a hire. And then you multiply that by 60 hires in a year and you get that £900 number. It may be that, you know, it'll be all done on a voluntary basis and therefore that number just disappears. So that's why I'm saying these aren't all absolute numbers. But should you need to employ it, gets big enough that you need to employ somebody to do it, that's why that number's in there. And that comes up to a total of £2,500 to £3,000 per year per bike, potentially. So in order to try and cover that, we would like to say that we would be looking at charging for rental of the bikes. Now, that number really comes down to how much the running costs end up being. But anywhere from, you know, £5 to £15 a day, or £50 a week, maybe hopefully a little bit more than that. We've got to find the number that's going to work, because we don't want to put people off. We want to get these bikes out. We want to get people to try them, but we also need to make sure that we cover the cost of looking after them. So that's the bit that will need a little bit of further head scratching, I think. And then obviously it's also a potential way of making more money for your community group, because if you can hire out that bike for more money, then the monies that will come back over and above running costs, we would propose would go back to the community group. We're not looking to take that money and run. We understand that you guys are going to put in a lot of time and effort as well, and obviously this is a fundraising potential for you. So that's essentially what those numbers are all about, and hopefully we'll find ourselves to be on the same page with what we're aiming to do. I think I will leave it at that because otherwise we'll just get into confusing levels of detail.
Thank you. Does anyone want to add anything from the presentations before we open up the floor? I'll stop sharing. Yeah, so if you, I'll circulate the slides afterwards as well, so that you get another chance to look at them properly without my face wandering around it.